Why does naked need an explanation? In the cinema, there is a stylistic spectrum of movie making, which ranges from documentaries to the avant-garde. Within that spectrum, there are realist films, classical films, and formalist films. Naked certainly represents realist cinema. It was all shot on location throughout London and Manchester, and the film has no fantastical elements. However, the characters are so deep that one may wonder their backstories and where they go after the film. The script is loquacious and has heady themes that the writer-director Mike Leigh wants you to think about. Also, the story and the plot points are so subtle that one may go away from this film wondering, who was that Jeremy Sebastian character? And why did Johnny have that fit after being beaten up? What all was he talking about? I first saw the movie a few years ago after seeing many guests of the Criterion Collection grabbing this film during their closet pick. I've put it in my own Criterion Top 10, and every time I watch it I leave asking myself a few questions. I always note the first sequence and line of a film. Naked opens with a long shot of a man and a woman having sex in an alley. The woman moans and grunts, and the first line is, "Oh, go on." The camera person runs toward them, and as the shot changes from a full shot to a close-up, the sex act becomes a rape. Johnny finishes and lets himself off, and the woman threatens to tell her Bernard of him. Johnny, never speaking, nor showing his face, runs off in a panic. What we found out in this first sequence is that Johnny's charmed a woman who's already in a relationship to have sex with him in public. Out of random anger, he mashes the back of her head up against the bricks and finishes while she's crying and begging him to stop. What happens next is easy to miss. The film cuts to him leaving his own residence with a duffel bag, then steals a car and drives from Manchester to London through the night. I'd never noticed this until watching the movie with the commentary, where Mike Leigh points this out.
Ironically, this film has been described as a film about homelessness, and the only person you ever actually see in or adjacent to his home is Johnny, whom you've just seen coming out of his house, having gone to get his bag before embarking on his epic journey from Manchester to London.
When Louise gets home from work, Johnny jokingly gags when asking her how's work.
So how's work?
He's hacking out the word work like it's stuck in his throat. Later on in the second act, he's antagonistic towards Brian's job as a security guard. It's obvious that he's hostile towards the working man and the idea of having a job.
That's my job.
Well, could they not train a tall chimpanzee to do that? Or a small chimpanzee with a bigger gizmo?
I suppose they could, yes.
In this scene with Johnny and Louise catching up, he tells her his mother's dead and jokes that she's a prostitute. When Johnny meets Brian, he's reading the Bible, and Brian asks him if he's read the book of Hosea.
For they are the children of whores.
Don't need to get personal, mate.
Brian is impressed with Johnny's wit, takes him in, and reveals this infatuation he has with the woman in the window. Johnny seduces the woman in the window. He's disgusted by her sloppy behavior and tells her she looks like his mother. He half-heartedly abuses her and throws her away. On top of that, when she's passed out, he steals her books because he doesn't think that she deserves them. The next morning, Johnny has breakfast with Brian, who tells him he's going to live in a hut in Ireland, where he's lived in a past life. And he leaves Johnny with a piece of fatherly advice. Don't waste your life. These moments tell you Brian and the woman in the window represent Johnny's parents. Johnny thinks very little of his mother, who isn't really dead, but is dead to him. This is where Johnny's hatred for women comes from. Johnny thinks his mother's a drunk whore, and his father, who he actually lives with, makes bad decisions by choosing his mother. Johnny doesn't respect his intelligence or life choices. The plot point that takes the film from the second act to the third act is when Johnny gets jumped by a gang of thugs. He then returns to Louise and has a terrible fit, kicking and screaming nonsensical things. Why is Johnny, who seems so together, so broken after this event? The realist answer is that Johnny has raped a woman for the first time and, in a panic, drove 4 hours from Manchester to London through the night. And over the course of 4 sleepless nights, he has brief encounters with various people, and he relies on his wit and cunning to charm them. In the second act, he tells Brian he has chronic systolic palpitations and acute neuralgia. He's been drinking, smoking weed, and had sex various times, and then he gets jumped. This must be exhausting. The more symbolic answer is that right before he gets jumped, he loses his duffel bag full of books. Books are everything to Johnny. They're where he gets his wit, his intelligence, and his philosophy. Without them, he's nothing.
Screamer! It's okay with your oxide feel barefoot, it won't take long. Ah! Ah!
The Jeremy character has always confused me. Why does he have more than one name? How does he know Sandra? And why is he so similar to Johnny? During the commentary, Mike Lee says that this character was written to remind us that whenever there's something going on in life, there's usually something that relates to it going on somewhere else. There's a scene where Jeremy is driving his Porsche through London at night on the phone, having an angry conversation with a business associate, half of which is in French. Mike Lee explains that when doing research for the Jeremy Sebastian character, that financial professionals at this time would cheat the British law by using made-up names to open several bank accounts so they can buy and sell multiple properties. So why are Johnny and Jeremy so similar during sex? Well, this brings us to where the name of the movie comes from, Naked, which means when you strip everything away, we're all basically the same. The film is investigating how we are evolved from monkeys and we're halfway between naked apes and heaven.
The very title of the film, which is Naked, which could be Naked Ape, and that, we are evolved from a carnivorous territorial primate, and that in some ways what the film is investigating, even sexually, that we are midway between heaven and the beasts, and we must never forget that we are not so long ago actually evolved from monkeys.
So what's the overall theme of this movie? Obviously, Johnny escapes Manchester to avoid being beaten up, but he also uses literature and theory to escape his parents. Stealing the woman's book and obliterating Brian's philosophy are ways that Johnny achieves his need to be smarter than his mother and father, in this case, escaping them. Louise has escaped Manchester to get away from Johnny. She says she'll never go back until Act 3 in the bathroom where Johnny shows her a sign of affection. Brian wants to escape to Ireland. Sophie uses sex as an escape. The first signs of significant insecurity in this movie comes from where Johnny shares his theory with Sophie, and Sophie calls it a load of bollocks. Sophie becomes aware of their gap between their intellects, and she resorts to a physical response to get the communication going. The woman in the window uses alcohol to escape. Maggie and Archie have escaped Scotland. Sandra escaped to Zimbabwe. And later we find out she's escaped her boyfriend. The T-girl is house-sitting for a family who has escaped from their lives, which sort of allows her to escape from her life in a way. Jeremy tells the first woman he rapes that he's going to commit suicide when he turns 40. And women are constantly escaping abusive men throughout the film. So every character in this film is trying to escape. And that's the overall theme of Naked. So what happens when the film ends? Jeremy, of course, gets to continue his life tormenting people, making money, and he probably will commit suicide. Catherine Cartledge, the actor who played Sophie, commented that after the final scene, she stayed in character for several hours wandering around London until she fell asleep on her bag of stuff. Louise waits for Johnny to come back and go to Manchester with him. But when she realizes he's not going to come back, she goes anyway because she thinks she has a better chance of running into Johnny staying in London. She either wants to be with Johnny or never see him in his day-to-day life. So what will Johnny do? I think that when Johnny's sure that Louise and Sophie are both gone, he'll go back to Sandra, using his charm and his wit to make her fall in love with him. Sandra's had a relationship with Jeremy, and has just gotten out of what seems like an unhappy relationship. She's the kind of person to fall for Johnny. I love the reference Johnny makes to Emily Bronte when talking about the tea shop girl's skirt. The wardrobe and set design symbolize the gothic bohemian lifestyle that these characters live. I think Louise's photo of Marlon Brando from Streetcar Named Desire achieves the same thing in a way. Maggie! When Archie is screaming Maggie in the streets, that's a reference to the reign of Margaret Thatcher ending in the UK. When Sophie leaves the flat and she's carrying that wooden S, in the commentary, Mike Leigh asks Katrin Cartledge where she found the S. Katrin says she found it in the skip somewhere, which means like in a dumpster, outside of some kind of shop. And what's interesting about that is how much Mike Leigh's characters, how much the actors know them. You see, when Mike Leigh is writing a script, he works with actors, and they write the script together, making up the characters. A lot of the times they rehearse in the streets. Some of them have to learn a skill like the masseuse who's massaging Jeremy. She actually had to learn how to be a massage therapist. And Mike Leigh has said that when she hasn't been able to find acting work, she's made some money doing massage. The actor who played Sandra was in another one of Mike Leigh's films, Life is Sweet, where she plays a plumber, and she had to actually learn how to be a plumber. So that's just that's interesting to me. One thing that I still don't know, that I still can't figure out watching this movie, is the sequence where Johnny is walking up the stairs, and he's got a tea in one hand and cigarette in the other, and he falls backwards. As he's going up the stairs, he goes, "Move, move," and he falls backwards and makes that face that you see on the cover art here. I can't figure out what that sequence means. During the commentary, David Thewlis, the actor playing Johnny, he's just talking about working with Mike Leigh and doesn't comment on what the sequence means. And I haven't been able to find a script. There's one for sale on Amazon, but I haven't been able to find one on the internet. So I don't know if it was written into the screenplay or if it was improvised. I think the first time I watched it, I thought that maybe David Thewlis, kind of out of character, was talking to the camera person, saying that he can't get through unless the camera person moves. And then they just left it in. They thought it was interesting. But I'm not sure. I mean, Johnny certainly has health problems. And then later when he gets jumped, his ankle looks a lot worse than I think it would be if he got jumped, and he, obviously hobbles away on it. So maybe there's something wrong with his foot from the beginning. So the point is, I'm going to leave the comments open. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to leave the comments open because I want you all, if you have any ideas of what this sequence means, I would like to hear about it and maybe have a little discussion. Okay, so here's the pitch. If you like this review, I have a short film on my channel. I have some class projects I made in my video classes at college, and I have some Criterion collection videos. So if you like that, you should subscribe to my channel. Watch me get better at this, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't like this video, give it a thumbs down. They both help me. So thank you very much for watching this. Bye-bye.